cooperation and competition through Open Invention Network as part of Global Entrepreneurship Week. So today we have a speaker from Open Invention Network, Mr. Biju K. Nair. He is a lawyer with 15 years of experience, having worked in various jurisdictions across India. His area of practice extended from corporate and commercial law, competition law, trademarks and copyrights, and constitutional law. He represents two global communities, Open Invention Network and Lot Network in India. He is legal consultant for companies and startups across industries in India. This webinar scheduled today will be a 30-minute session and 50 minutes Q&A. You can type your questions in the Q&A box or in the chat box. So I would like to formally invite Mr. Biju K. Nair for this session. Over to you.
Thank you, Nasif. Thank you, Kerala Startup Mission and Global Entrepreneurs Week for hosting me as a speaker. So I hope all the people in the audience are safe and sound, and they're taking care of themselves and their family. So during these pandemic times, this concept has a lot of significance. And as an entrepreneur, for all of us, we always think that we can work in silos. But that notion is contrary to what happens, because cooperation between entrepreneurs is the building block. So as an individual human being, at the base of it, we need to collaborate, whether it is within the family, with the siblings, with the society at large. At the same time, since resources are limited, so whether it's financial resource or any resource for that matter, there is a competition for the resources, whether it is technology. So one of the most interesting fact which we will be discussing today is with a use case scenario where one of the most competitive things is property. And in that, I would talk about the intellectual property, because any other property you could buy, sell, but intellectual property is generally owned by entrepreneurs. They can't, they would generally license it out and all those things. So how do we in this environment collaborate with our competitors or the peers, whichever way you call it, whether it is nationally, globally, sector-wise, sector agnostic, whichever way it might be. So the fundamental basis of that is the fact that there is a limited resources. So we need to collaborate, because, for example, you might be good in one technology, but you might be, not ventured into some other technology. So you need to collaborate with some other person or an entity or a startup or a company or with the government or with accelerators like KSUM and others to make sure that wherever in the areas where you have a drawback or you can't put your resources into, you collaborate with others who are already doing that work. And in this regard, I would take on the best case example of the open source community, because globally they are the best examples of collaboration, wherein which at an individual level you collaborate, at a company level you collaborate, at a government level you collaborate, and then there is an assimilation of all these entities in an open source project. So the focus area why I would be dealing with Open Invention Network is typically intellectual property, and specifically patents is an area where there is a lot of competition, because each entity which owns those patents generally licenses it off, and they create royalty out of that. So in this ecosystem where there is a fierce competition, like each company owning their own patents, so how do we make sure that in fundamental technologies, companies and startups and projects collaborate with each other so that everybody reaps the benefit of collaboration. At the same time, their business interest also has to be considered. So there is a balance which needs to be maintained between the business interests and also the lack of resources with each of the entity. So whichever entity you might take, whether it is government, whether it is private sector, whether it is startup, everybody has limited resources. So it could be technology resources, it could be financial resources. So there is an inherent need for collaboration. And as an entrepreneur, that's the most important thing you need to do. You need to make sure that how do you collaborate? So the first thing is whether if you can't build it yourself, you should collaborate with somebody else who's already built it. Maybe you can, add value to the thing the IP which they have already built, or the product they have already built, or the services they have already built. So there is a base there for you to build upon something. So you don't have to, reinvent the wheel. You don't need to start from the very scratch. There are so many projects. So while we go through the slides and the presentation, I will take you through various sectors where companies globally are collaborating with each other. Whether they are Chinese companies, whether they are US entities, they are Korean entities, Japanese entities, or Indian entities, they have all come together on a day-to-day basis. If you see, they're all competitors. They are peers who would be doing their own work, and they would be competing for clients and customers. So how do we ensure that in the area of technology? And why I chose patents and why I'm talking about Open Invention Network also is there is a beautiful collaboration over the last 15 years. So today Open Invention Network is celebrating 15 years of incorporation of OIN. And we have had 3,300 members globally. This includes projects, this includes startups, this includes the biggest companies in the world. So all of them have come together to ensure that there is cooperation at one level, and also at the same level, there is competition. Yeah, let's. So when we talk about technology, we see that there is a need for cooperation there. And there also there is a need for competition there, because there has to be some services which each of them provides, which is distinct from the other. And but at the same time, as I said, there is a lack of resources. So there is a need for collaboration. So what we are trying to do at Open Invention Network is on fundamental technology, which is Linux and open source here, we ensure that there is collaboration. So how does this collaboration happen? Any entity which joins the community takes a pledge in the form of a license agreement that they will not assert their Linux platform patents against the community members. And the community members on a reciprocal basis does the same to them. To give you an example, IBM is one of the initial founders of Open Invention Network. IBM has the largest collection of Linux platform patents in the world. A startup which has just been incorporated yesterday also joins the community, can join the community. There is no commercials to joining the community, gets onto the same level playing field. So IBM will not assert their Linux platform patents against this startup, which was incorporated again yesterday, who has joined the community. And this entity, which since it's just been incorporated yesterday, will not have any patents, but tomorrow it could file patents like 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line. They could also do innovation and have Linux platform patents. So in that eventuality, they will also not assert their platform Linux platform patents or open source patents against IBM. So there is a level playing field built. There is cooperation on this fundamental technology here, which is Linux and open source. And also there is competition. Let's take the example of Android. We all use it in our phones, in the new cars which we drive. There is Android in the smart TV. If you are using an Android TV, we have Android. So most of these patents behind this Android technology is owned by a company called Google. And Google, being part of this community, will not assert their Linux platform patents, Android platform patents, against the community members. At the same time, Google makes money. How does Google make money is that on top, so on the fundamental technology, they will not assert their patents. But on top of it, if you want additional features, you have to pay Google for those features. So you can use the base, which is Android, but if you want additional features, you have to pay. So there is a competition. So on the services, there is a competition which is built in here. So at the same time, on fundamental technology, there is no competition, there is cooperation. So what is the problem if we don't get into a cooperation mode, or then otherwise we are in a closed ecosystem. We would innovate or create patents and IP, wherein which somebody has already done that, and we would be just reinventing the wheel. We would be doing something which already has been done by many people, and there are various things in the ecosystem which has been done and offered to everybody to use. So it makes sense to collaborate in all this ecosystem so that the base is already done and you can utilize it. You build on top of it so that the benefit of the others collaborating with you and doing stuff is also received by you, and you can on top of it work on a focused area where you want to focus on. As I said, the barriers have gone, because today we build any product or services for the whole global ecosystem, whether it is a SaaS product, whether it is an IoT product. You look at the global ecosystem as the market, and the role of software in all this is ever increasing. And when we talk about software, it is mostly companies, communities, governments use open source today. So that's the reason why this sector is quite important. And when the collaboration happens across the ecosystem, global ecosystem, there the barriers of diversity, like APAC region or North American region, all goes off, because people are collaborating from all areas of the world. So just to take an example, if there is a problem in a software, we are all in the Indian time zone. By the time we end our day, somebody else would have taken the baton and started working on that code or project. So that's the beauty of collaboration in a global ecosystem, because when you are sleeping, they are working, and once they are sleeping, you are started to take on from them, and you have started working on those projects or work. So that's a great the concept, and that gives a global flavor to whatever you guys are doing. So now coming back to the community we have built. We have built this community in the last 15 years. We have, as I said, 3,300 members. We have 2.6 million patents and applications, which is owned by the community. So we have 3,320 softwares and applications. And if you see the cross license, it comes to 2 million plus cross licenses. We also have a defensive pool of 1,300 patents. Most of them are US patents, but it can be accessed by any community member. So we have spent $100 million US to acquire this 1,300 patents. And these are in all areas of technology. You don't have to pay us any royalty for using any of these patent pieces, which in a normal situation would, if you're not part of the community, any patents, either you have to file it yourself or you have to assign it or license it. So as I said, the whole community has been built up of collaboration is on the area of patents. And patents also we are looking at Linux and open source. So where the friction, so what would have happened if this community was not there? There would be entities, big, small, who would be fighting against each other. So for example, X company has a patents on, let's say, X technology, which reads on Linux or open source. And there is Y startup, which also uses the same technology. So X company could sue Y company because they are using the same technology. It could be a patent infringement case. But because it reads on Linux and open source, and they both are part of the community, they will not assert their patents against each other. So that level playing field is created. Secondly, this level playing field is not limited to one sector. It is across domains. So while we go through so what is the benefit out of it? The benefit out of all this thing is there is money spent not on fighting with each other. There is money spent on innovation, which is the objective. Because if we fight against each other on fundamental technology, all our resources, financial resources, legal resources will be spent on those efforts, not innovation and spending on your employees and other stuff and creating and innovating more things. So as I said, our mission is to enable open source, because that's the area where everybody is using. Most of the software which is used by governments, whether it is by private sector or startups or projects, very important projects or entities like NASA, CERN, all uses open source. So we have to protect open source from patent tension. So what is patent tension? Patent tension is when you use any technology, there is a threat of two types of entities which could create tension or create problems for you. So for example, the two types of entities are differentiated as operating entities. So what are operating entities? Operating entities are any entities which do normal transactions. They are normal companies which has products or services to offer. But some of the times what we have seen is those companies use their patents, especially Linux platform patents, and to sue other community members, and they monetize of those patents. Patent monetization is not wrong, but if you start suing the whole ecosystem, then there is a problem. And on fundamental technology, then there is a problem. Then there are other types of entities. They are called patent assertion entities, or we call them as patent trolls. So what are patent trolls? They are entities which are just incorporated and they buy patents and they start filing infringement cases. They don't do any operation, day-to-day operation. They don't create products or services. Their objective is to just buy patents and start asserting their patents. And where do these entities get their patent assertion entities get their patents from? They get their patents from these operating entities or universities when they sell their patents. In US and all and other parts of the world, many of the universities have a lot of patents. And when they sell it, they are also brought by these patent trolls. So these are the two problem areas which we are trying to mitigate. So as I said, we have a vision of ensuring that there is patent peace across the whole ecosystem which reads on Linux and open source. So irrespective of the sector, we have members who are party to Open Invention Network. So this shows, how open source is part of everyday life of ours, from our system to our mobile to our car to the cloud services. So everything is based on, built on open source. So this will give you a picture of, how collaboration is happening across the industry domains. So you can see automotive grade Linux, where companies, Japanese auto majors, the Korean auto majors, Indian auto majors, US auto majors, German auto majors, all are coming together and building this automotive grade Linux. Each entity or this community. In cloud, there is Cloud Foundry. Then people who are working on blockchain, Hyperledger project is also a great platform for you guys. People working on security, Let's Encrypt and OpenSSL and other initiatives are there. So you named IoT or drone, whichever you sector you talk about or field or work you are doing, whether as a researcher, as a student, or as an entity, or as government, whatever nomenclature you might want to give yourself, there is a collaboration happening between the competitors. So these companies were the founding entities which created Open Invention Network. So if you see here, this gives you a perspective of that globally, every part of the world is collaborating on, and they're part of Open Invention Network. So you see 23%, which is APAC, Asia Pacific region, whether it is North American region or the European region, people are collaborating and they are part of this community. Now let's look at which are the sectors, whichever sector you might be in, who are the major players who are part of the community and how they are collaborating. So whether it is automotive, whether it is energy, internet, technology, hardware, semiconductors, any of these industries, medical devices, computer software, let's see all those things. So automotive, you can see Daimler, which is a German entity, Ford, US entity, Geekly, which is a Chinese entity, Hyundai, which is a Korean entity, Renault, which is a French entity. So all these companies have come together, joined, and with the same pledge that each of these entities, which otherwise on a day-to-day level is a competitor to each other, will not fight against each other on Linux platform patents. The banking sector, you can again see Ant Group, which is a Chinese entity, Equifax, SMBC, which is a Japanese entity. All these are coming together, and there are great projects on the banking. As I told you, Hyperledger is one of the great projects, which which is being collaborated globally. Even in the capital goods industry. So typically you would not realize that, okay, capital good industry, why are they collaborating? So, which is a very quite capital intensive, sector. So here also there is, collaboration happening between various entities. And computer networking or computer software industry, you would see all these companies collaborating that they will not fight against each other on Linux and open source. So I think information technology and services would be one area I would like to focus, because we have most of the Indian companies in this sector focused on. So we have companies like Infosys, L&T Services, Mindtree, Tech Mahindra, all these companies who are part of the community, and they are collaborating in a way that they will not fight against each other on Linux and open source. You could see from the telecom sector, AT&T, Jio, Telstra, Verizon, all these companies coming together and working together with each other. So now I'd also like to give you a perspective that which are the areas we have ensured that the packages are there and software and applications are there. So there are some base packages, then there are software engineering packages. All of those are part of the protection of OIL. So whether you talk about cloud, whether you talk about software engineering, whether you talk about enterprise computing, mobile, all of this gets covered here. So you can, this gives you a graphical representation of all those areas, automotive sector. So we collaborate with also with foundations like the Linux Foundation. So we ensure that any Linux and open source project or startup or company is safe from patent action. So this also would give you an illustration on how we have been working with all these projects, whether it is automotive grade Linux, whether it is Chrome, Android, Hyperledger, OpenNNV, OpenApp, LF Energy. We have been working, and we are ensuring that all these softwares and applications are also part of the packages which is protected by Open Invention Network. So last year we saw a scenario where one of the foundations, Genome Foundation, was sued by a patent assertion entity, a patent troll. So when they were sued, so Genome Foundation is an open source foundation, and many of you would have used their softwares. So when Genome Foundation was sued by Rothschild, any patent troll expects a license fee and monetary fee from the entity which they have asserted against. So Genome Foundation, being a non-profit, doesn't have money to pay up, and it should not be paying up. So what they did was they joined Open Invention Network. We gave them prior art. They also went for crowdfunding because patent litigation is an expensive proposition. So they did crowdfunding, and with the prior art, they challenged the patents of Rothschild, which were asserted against Genome Foundation. So when they were challenged, what happens is you can invalidate using this prior art these patents. So for any patents to be granted globally, there need to be a requirement of novelty. It has to be new. Otherwise, a patent cannot be granted. With prior art, you can demonstrate to the patent office that this is already in existence and there is no novelty. So with that, you can invalidate the patents of the patent assertion entity. Then this year, what happened was Rothschild withdrew this litigation against Genome Foundation because Rothschild did not expect that they will be challenged by Genome Foundation, because they are just a foundation. They will not be challenged. That's what their expectation, and they will get their money. But when they went into a defensive posture, that's when Rothschild withdrew this litigation, gave all the licenses, not only patent which was infringed, alleged to be infringed by Genome Foundation, all the patents which Rothschild owned, license was given to Genome Foundation. So that's the way, there is a defensive mechanism which has been created by this community on a global level. So what we are trying to do here is we are trying to ensure that the cooperation is happening. There is risk of patent assertion entities like patent trolls or operating entities behaving like patent trolls is reduced. So what is the benefit of being part of the community? So it reduces the risk of patents infringement around Linux and open source. There is a greater visibility that in your products and services, that there is lesser risk for your company or your project or whatever services you are providing as an entrepreneur. It helps you to retain top talent because all the talent around open source and Linux is of great demand. And if you're you are working on some of the cutting edge projects and stuff, lot of good resources would be happy to join your company or project, whatever you're doing. The community joining is free of cost. There is no commercials. You get multiple benefits. As I said, you get access to 1,300 patents, royalty free, where we have spent almost 100 million US dollars. You get to access to being part of a community where there is a level playing field, irrespective of your size, you are respected. We help you in case you are sued by a patent troll or an operating entity. So as I said, on any of the Linux and open source 2.6 million cross licenses, you get a benefit. Even in our patent portfolio, this 1,300 patents, a large chunk of it is biometric patents. In fact, we have the largest collection of biometric patents in the world, 100 of them. We have patents in all areas of technology. So whichever areas of technology you're working on, you can benefit from them. So in case you guys want to understand the cross-licensing, I can take you through those cross-licensing thing, but let's just get into an overview of it, not into a minute level understanding. So recently we upgraded, being added many more software packages to our Linux definition. So the recent addition, we included Hyperledger, automotive grade Linux, and some of those softwares and applications. So these are the ones which we have recently added: Hadoop, Spark, XFAT, Hyperledger, KDE, ROS, Scala. All these were added in this upgrade, which recently happened in the month of October. XFAT, I'm trying to put it here because for the fact that XFAT was one of the most litigated softwares. So other than this, I also wanted to talk to you guys about another community, which I am also part of it. It's called LOT Network. It stands for License on Transfer. So at License on Transfer, what we do is any LOT member, when they sell any of their patents, it could be medical technology patents or any sector patents, if that patents falls in the hands of a patent troll. So we have defined a patent troll as any entity which makes more than 50% of their annual revenue from filing patent infringement cases. So an operating entity also would fall into this definition if they are making more than 50% of annual revenue, or a pure patent troll also will fall into this definition. So once a LOT member sells any of their patents, if it falls in the hands of a patent troll, that patent troll cannot use that patent against another LOT member. So this way, we are keeping millions of patents away from the hands of patent trolls. In fact, the 1,000 members of LOT owns 12% of all the patents which has been filed in US. So that is the benefit of being part of LOT. And in LOT, if you are making less than 25 million US dollars, joining is free. You don't have to, there is no, and projects are the bigger victims of patent trolls, because the patent trolls also understand that you don't have financial resources to fight back. You don't have patents in case of an operating entity to fight back. So that's the reason why it is very important for smaller entities to look into defensive patent strategies. You may not have the financial resources to file for patents and acquire patents, but you at least can do is to ensure that as an entrepreneur that you have a defensive patent strategy. And OIN and LOT both are defensive patent strategies to that effect. I think my time is up, so I would be ready to take question and answers from anybody in the audience.
Hi, everyone. You can drop the questions in the Q&A tab at the bottom, and we'll be picking it up from there.
And in case you guys want to reach out to me, you can reach out to me in my email ID. I'll be happy to answer any of your questions also post this session.
Sure. If you can give me your email ID, I can. I'll just type it down in the webinar chat so everyone can see.
Yeah, it's B Nair. I think I have put it on the screen also. B Nair at openinventionnetwork.com.
Okay, done. So we haven't received any questions yet. So I think that means you've been really thorough with the presentation. And that's a good sign. So thank you so much for taking the time and talking to us today.
Yeah.
And I think we have one. Okay, so we have Suraj who wants to know the patent fee in Europe is really high and incremental. So how does open invention help?
Yeah. So, Suraj, to your question, we don't help in filing patents. In fact, some of our community members don't have any patents. And many of the startups don't, even bigger companies don't believe in filing patents at all. What we do is, as I said, we are a defensive patent strategy. So even if you don't have patents on Linux and open source, you should be without any patent tension. Why do companies file for patents? To ensure that their competitors don't file for a patent and they don't file a patent infringement against you. But being part of OIN and on Linux and open source, we are ensuring that there will be no patent tension. Companies will not sue you. You might be a startup, you might be the biggest company in the world. You're part of the community, that tension is taken care. That risk is taken care. And patent fees are jurisdictional. So each country can decide what is the fee they want to charge. And in some jurisdictions, they also believe that, if you put the fee as too low, there will be patents on low quality things like, small things which otherwise should not be granted patents would also be filed. So, jurisdictions like US also has faced this problem. That's why we have judgments like Alice, which says that, software patents will not be granted because, patents is also a monopoly which is granted by the government for some time period. Most of the cases, it's 20 years period, which reduces innovation in certain cases because only you can do anything around that because others cannot be able to innovate because either they have to take a license from you or they have to own those patents. So in some jurisdictions, they have this fee also for higher fee for this factor also. Hope, Suraj, I answered your question on that part.
Yes, I think you've been very thorough with that answer. Do we have any more questions? You can add it to the Q&A tab now. We'll just wait for a couple more seconds. Okay, I think you've covered quite a few things during the presentation. And Mr. Biju Nair, as always, it's been a really great learning experience. Hearing one of your talks. So thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us, and thank you for sharing the extensive knowledge that you've gathered over the last few years of your professional life. And to all the attendees, thank you for logging on for today's session as well. You can reach out to Mr. Biju Nair on the email, which is in the chat box or on the screen for any further questions that you have, and we'll be happy to help. So thank you everyone once again, and have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, Parag. Thanks, everybody. I think there is one more question. No.
No, that is the previous question. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Good day.